Welcome back to Animatron University. My name is Jesse Bray, and I'm your instructor. In this lecture, we're going to talk about transitions. Now, when it comes to editing, nothing is more important than learning how to do transitions. We're going to cover types of transitions, reframing a story, and motion design tips. Of the types of transitions, there is the cut, there's the cross, and then there's the fade. A crossfade is when you take one scene and you blend them into another. A cut is when you move one cut to the next. And then finally there's the fade. A fade in or fade out, it gives you a gradual opening to your scene. It helps people wake up to what's happening or resolve to what's happening. When you crossfade, you find that you do the same thing where you can have people resolve, but the transition is deliberately meant to create more of a juxtaposition of what's happening. A cut in transitions is to show there's a point of time. When you cut your film, it shows that something's happened between this frame and that frame. If you allow yourself a longer span of time, you can tell that there's been a greater sense of what's happening. Same goes for the rule of a montage. If you're going to tell a story with a montage, you're going to use a bunch of little cuts to tell one story, and you're going to try to save time. That is the power of transitions. We can be time travelers. We can slow down or speed up the passage of time through transitions. A transition can also reframe a story. And now, by reframing a story, you can show through a series of cuts your story, but you can also retell it. An excellent example of retelling your story through reframing is the film Memento. Memento plays backwards. If you haven't seen the film, I highly recommend it. Memento starts where the man has lost his memory and he has to decode what's happening in his life. And so the film plays in 15-minute backwards storytelling. And you unlearn or you learn what actually happened to the character through each previous passage of time. I would consider it one of the most perfect examples of how cutting a story, of how transitions can transform a retelling of a story. Transitions can also tell multiple stories. We can cut to story A and story B and story C. Meanwhile, at the Batcave. Meanwhile, in Boston. Meanwhile, at home, at the Quickie Mart. It doesn't matter, but with a transition, you can tell multiple stories happening in the same timeline. Take advantage of that power. And a perfect example is the montage. The montage is the quick scrapbook way of getting all your ideas together. It's that second scene when in Rocky where you're running up the hill and your character's learning. A montage. Now, I want to move from transitions to motion design tips. Use music and use rhythm. Rhythm is your friend. The first animations, one of the most important animations to watch, is Steamboat Willie. And Steamboat Willie was revolutionary because it told a story with audio. And that had never been done before, where there was a mainstream film with music. Rhythm helps us set the pace. Even cuts are done at a pace. If you do your homework, you'll also discover that as you watch a film and it moves along to more intense scenes, the cuts get quicker and quicker and quicker and quicker, like in the film Psycho. Like in many action films, as things get more intense, the cuts get shorter and shorter and shorter, and it creates a sense of anxiousness to your viewer. Last tip I want to talk about when it comes to motion design is that fonts are your friends. They have personality to them and they have excellent shape and silhouette. If you are designing a motion graphic piece, think about the shape and the silhouette of that font and how you can leverage that strength of that font to tell the story. Now, fonts can be very cinematic and very bold, or they can be cartoony. They can have so much personality in themselves. And if you're going to use transitions, and if you're going to use fonts, and you're going to use motion design effectively, you need to think about how they can tell your story, they can change time, and they can speed things up. Fonts have an excellent way of bringing people up to speed. What would Star Wars be without its introduction title credit? If we didn't read all that title credit, could we still appreciate the film? Potentially, but would we know what's happening? Finding ways to use font intelligently will help you be a better storyteller as well. I'll see you all later in the course.